And now, let's take a trip over to Rollerstown to the home of Sylvia Maxwell, where herself and Ronnie Delaney talk about old times and growing up in Swords.
We have Ronnie Delaney from Glassmore and Swords here.
Thank you.
My name is Sylvia Maxwell. I originally lived on the main street of Swords. I'm very passionate about the town and what happens to it. Ronnie, I'm going to ask you first thing is, where did you live before you came to Glassmore?
Now, that's interesting. Not too far away. And good morning, everybody. I lived in Ballybuckle.
Right.
I hope I said that right, because there's different ways of saying it. It's Ballybuckle, Ballybuckle, Ballybuckle. There's a bit of a story to it. There was a friend of mine from Swords. Can I name names or anything?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
John Clark. He was a sign writer with the council. And John told me one time, he says, sure, I'd be making signs for the council, that time handwriting them. And I see Ballybuckle coming up. So sometimes he said, I'd put Ballybuck Hill on it. Sometimes I'd put Ballybuckle and Bally something else. You know, he was taking the crack with it, you know. But I came from Ballybuckle, yeah. So we moved into Swords in my mum and dad and me two brothers and sister, back in 1967.
Wow.
Into Glassmore Park.
Yeah. You were one of the first, weren't you?
We were one of the first in. We were definitely in the same week as the, say, houses 1 to 20. We were 28. So we were definitely in the same week. Some people say, we were first in, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 days ago. You know.
Yeah, because
that's the way it was.
I think you were next door to my aunt, was it, Kitty Tracy?
Oh, yes, she was. Lovely lady, Kitty Tracy. Yes, I was, yeah, beautiful lady.
Would you believe, Kitty came from the Knockshedam Forest.
That area,
and
that's right,
the ruins are the only one left there now, hers.
That's right. Well, our house is still there, so and all that. She used to keep a great garden, and we used to call her Ushers.
Yeah,
did you ever hear of Ushers?
Yeah, that's where her husband worked there for years.
There you go. And we didn't even know she was from there.
Yeah.
But every time the ball went into Kitty's garden, we won't go in for that because we won't find it. So, you know, it was Ushers. Your ball's going in there. We'd be playing ball in the street. So Glassmore became one of the first big developments, I suppose, in housing. You call it social housing today, but it was county council housing. Yeah. Beautiful estate. And I was thinking about this podcast the last few days. I said, whoever designed that estate, they should have blueprinted it. And model other places on it, because it was perfect. To this day now, this 21st century now we're in, you can still park a car outside, both sides of the streets, and get by. You know, there's a bit of room in the place, and we had nice gardens. We didn't have a humongous garden. We had a nice garden, and, you know, we had plenty of space, and it was a good place to grow up.
Yeah, and do you notice now it's like it's a revival, because new people come in and there's new children coming in.
Absolutely,
it's just a cycle.
And it's going to be a great time for new people coming in, because they're coming in with their kids now. Young kids are going to grow up to be teenagers, but you're not going to have the volume of teenagers that we had at the time.
No.
Like when we go out in the street in the evening at 6 o'clock, there'll be, wouldn't say gangs, but there'll be groups of 4s and 5s. Where are you from? Oh, we live over the other side. Oh, we're not going over there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
And that's the way it was, because you're only 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being 9 and 10. I remember meeting a friend of mine, first friend I met on the road, Thomas Casey. They used to call him Cats. He was named by trees. Tracy called him Cats.
Yeah.
Herself and Anne O'Neill.
Oh, right, yeah.
Anne used to be a pile of trees. We'd be up playing. You know,
yeah.
And I think back
Anne
now.
came from Lisson Hall.
Lisson Hall.
Yeah.
So they were literally only 12, 13. Anne O'Neill and Trees were friends. Well, Anne O'Neill used to come from Lisson Hall.
Yeah.
And they'd be playing, and we would, myself and Thomas Mack, and we'd be playing football around the light at the time. You know, we used to climb the pole of the light. Oh, that's kind of crack you do when you're a 10 or 12-year-old, you know. So somewhere along the way, she called him Cats. So his nickname was Cats.
Well, isn't that a thing in Swords?
Yeah.
It was always,
he's well known.
Everybody had a nickname.
Yeah, but everybody knew him as Cats as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know, he's well known. So I hope if he's listening, I hope he's keeping well these days, you know. So look, we grew up there, and just mentioning Anne O'Neill, her dad, Paddy O'Neill,
that's right,
was one of the first men I had an encounter with as a swordsman. I remember going to the Barber Smiths in Main Street.
Oh, I remember him, yeah.
Yeah, I remember going to Barber Smiths with my father, and I was only a kid. We were living in Ballybuckle.
Yeah.
So this was a big deal. At that time, someone said, well, where will I meet you? I'll meet you in Swords. Where will I meet you? Meet you at the big tree. Sure, I thought there was a big tree somewhere. It was the pub.
But there was a big tree.
There
That's
was
what
a
the pub
tree there.
was called after,
Yeah.
a big tree, yeah.
But people would park their cars, or especially their bikes. We were nearly on them. We hadn't got cars. An uncle of mine had a car, all right. My dad had a motorbike. He was a motorbike lad. So he had an old motorbike. And I remember going in there one day for a haircut. And Paddy O'Neill is in the... I didn't know him. But they're talking to each other, like, you know, la 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 la. How are you, Paddy? How's it going? La la. And Paddy had a little black and white dog with him. And of course, Ronnie ended up bringing the dog home against all odds on the back of the motorbike. Home with the puppy. Paddy was delighted. So it was probably about a year later, I think, that we moved to Swords. And then I started school in the primary school, which is now Cullenkill School, up to Chapel Lane there.
That's right, yeah.
And that was only fairly newly open. It was a boys and girls school.
That's correct, yeah.
But we were separated.
Yeah, because the original one was down North
mixed.
Street.
Yeah,
do you remember?
I was never in that one.
Yeah.
So this one was just open. There were separate sections. We weren't mixed in the classes. Now, I had come from a mixed class in Ballybuckle.
Well, of course you would have, yeah.
Because of a small community. So there I am going into third class, and here's this teacher. I looked at him. I said, I know him, Paddy O'Neill.
Oh, I didn't know he taught there as well. I knew he was up in Cloughlin and he was in charge of Cloughlin.
Cloughlin just closed.
All right, I forgot about
that
Paddy
year.
being there.
So that would have been 67. So he moved down to Cullenkill, and you know the way teachers are asking questions, and this is third class now for a young lad, you know. But I had been in third class. I'd been in second class in Ballybuckle, but because of mixed, there was second and third class.
Oh, that's right.
So I had a good flavour of what was coming up. Not that I knew, but he was asking questions, and I felt like when I put my hand up all the time here, he said, "Where are you from?" He says to me, "Ballybuckle." And what kind of class were you in out there? Well, I was in with second and third class. No wonder you know all the answers.
He was a very independent man. He used to come to my mother and the button come off his coat and he'd say, "Agnes, give me a needle there." And I thought, so if I know you won't, I'll do it myself.
That's him. Yeah, he would, 100%.
Great character.
And he used to have us, now that time, you believe it or not, that time in the school, I always remember in our school, you're starting to grow up now and you're meeting big lads, you know. I mean, I'll tell you a story about secondary school in a minute, but anyway, in our school, we weren't allowed to play football in the yard, obviously because you might break windows, and we didn't know. We wanted to play football.
Of course.
So we used to play with the cork of a bottle. Did you know the cork that comes off, the one with the little edges on it? Now, what we didn't realise was we were stabbing around the yard with our shoes. So within a week, 2 weeks, there was a hole in the toe of your shoe.
Yeah.
Now and everyone was the same.
Exactly.
So then we upgraded to a smoker. A lad smokes a pipe, tobacco tin, little roundy tin. So this was like a big football. This was great. But Paddy always encouraged it. He even brought a ball in for us one time. And I remember him getting in trouble. We were playing on the grass, and who gave us that? Mr. O'Neill gave us the ball. Mr. O'Neill got in trouble. So then he used to drill us. I mean, drill us as in the army. I don't know, did he have an army background?
I think so.
He might have had.
The house he was in, they were army houses.
Oh, right.
But he wasn't originally in it.
Maybe his father was. Well, he was fantastic then. I always remember our class being drilled for our break. Out the class, get into line, and he showed us how to march like soldiers, because we were like, soldiers? This is brilliant. So we're learning clay, yes, clay, yes, clay, yes, clay. Clay, yes, clay, yes, clay, yes, clay.
And the reason that still stays with you, all these things of your childhood.
And then he gets to stop, and he gets to... I forget the term, like I'm not very great on the old Gaelic now. You know, yes, clay, you turn left, turn right, and there was a whole routine to it. You had to stomp your foot, then go forward again. And you want to see this class going around the yard. This was brilliant. But then other classes wanted to do it. So we were all doing...
What year was that around?
67, 68, 67, yeah. 67.
Yeah, I would have been national school. No, I wasn't.
You're a little bit behind me, I think.
I was a bit behind,
yeah, a little bit behind me. Your brother was with me in school, I think.
Which one?
I don't know.
Eugene?
Eugene.
Yeah.
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely fella. Yeah. You had a shop.
No, we didn't actually. Everybody thought our house was going to be a shop. No.
Was your house not the shop?
My granny had a shop in the Boot Inn.
I know it.
Yeah.
I know it.
That's what you're...
Because Maxwell is over the door.
Yeah, it's still there. The ruins are still
That's
there.
That's right. It's embedded in concrete. Brilliant the way they made things years ago. You know, somebody thought of, hey, we make these letters, probably cut it out of wood, pour the concrete and put it up there.
Yeah,
you know?
It's still there today.
Yes, I saw it. Yeah, I saw it there. Yeah, there you go. So that was kind of early days in Swords there. Yeah.
So you would walk down from Glassmore, wouldn't you?
Oh God, yeah, everything was walking.
Yeah, there was no
Glassmore was in the sticks.
Yeah, and you wasn't parents bringing you down either.
No, I got lumbered even at that age to bring me brother and sister, and then a couple of neighbours copped. Sure, Ronnie will bring them. I'd be going with about 5 kids. I was only 9. You know.
Yeah.
But at the time, I often tell people in Ballybuckle that I live in Ballybuckle, but I often tell people to say, sure, do you know something? When I was 9 years old, when I moved into Swords, I kind of didn't want to be in Swords. My friends are Ballybuckle. I grew up in Ballybuckle. So I had a bike. I used to hit the bike on a Friday evening and head for Ballybuckle. Yeah. So I'd be in Ballybuckle riding a bike, a 9-year-old, out the Rappier Road. You couldn't do it now. Like,
no.
You wouldn't have a hope. But everybody minded each other. You'd end up bringing some of the kids, and then you get an arky one. You have to say, I'm not bringing that one with me. You wouldn't be able to handle them, like,
And come here, did you spend much time down now with the Jacko? Were you bound not to go near it?
No, we were frightened out of going near it, of course. So we were always going down there. It wasn't that accessible back then either. It was pretty overgrown.
Yeah, but you remember there used to be the dirt track down.
You could get down the dirt track. Oh, yeah, we were down there. Yeah, absolutely. When we discovered the Jacko, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
it was brilliant.
I think that's where most of us learned to swim.
Listen, but see, I came from a country background. I mean, I came from, out the field there at the pump, and I'm in the woods. There's little woods up around the Bettyville area, Ballybuckle there, right around New Lawn there, and there's lovely woods. And like I spent my whole summers and everything fishing in the river there, and so I was a real country fella. I could manage this terrain, like, It was Jacko, really good times down there, yeah. A certain few friends. We had friends from Glassmore, and then we became known as, them people up in Glassmore, oh my God. Then I remember one time the Seatown lads were going to have us on in a row. Not a battle.
Yeah.
The Battle of the Bridge on Bridge Street. We met them at the castle, and we were coming down from Glassmore with our gang of lads. We met them at the bridge, and we had slingshots and bow and arrows. Look, we were gas crack, wasn't it? Just gas.
I know.
But thank God nobody got
so
an arrow in the eye or something.
When you think about it, like, at
kids,
the time. Yeah.
But when you're a kid, you can be a bit afraid of it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean?
When you see a 15, 16-year-old, you say,
Jesus,
I was going to tell you about football. When we started growing up then, being in secondary school down in Finian's there in Swords. And I remember the chap came in from Rollastown here, one of the Flanagan lads, Des, I think it was Desi.
Pat?
No, Desi. I know Pat, but Desi.
Who's Desi Flanagan?
Desi. He might be more Dunamore.
He's not
Rollastown. Desi came into school one time, and he's in our class, or maybe a class ahead. But he was under 16 anyway, to be on the school team. But Desi had a beard. You know what I mean? Like a beard, a full beard. I'm looking, holy God, is he under 16? He's going to fry. He's on our team. This is great. It was like having Goliath in the middle of the field, He was brilliant. There were some great footballers. If I talk a bit about the football back, I always remember the Markies, Tom Markey and Downey Markey there. Downey was a great footballer, Lord of mercy on him. He was killed tragically in his work back in the years. But a lovely fella, good friend of mine, played for Dublin. He played in Wembley for Dublin.
Yeah, I knew the name all right,
Downey Markey, lovely fella. Still remember him like it was yesterday. Yeah. And we all grew up. So we started playing football on the far green of Glassmore then.
Yeah.
Nobody was kind of arguing with us there. We were kind of allowed to play there. Then we had to deal with the Grizz O'Brien, the Grizz Grimes. He's a gas fella. I can't even remember his first name. The Grizzer, and he had an older brother and a sister. But he was a great footballer. Great footballer too, and Tom Markey, and as I said, now they came in from St. Margaret's.
Yeah.
So they wouldn't have been in for a couple of months. Do you know what I mean? We were settled in because them houses weren't finished.
Yeah.
But then they came in. So it would have been 68 then. Again, we all kind of got to know each other then. And then we discovered Fingallion. Someone said, one of the Rogers men said to me, Ronnie, would you come down and play for Fingallions? Mm. Yeah, sure. So we played it underage, you know what I mean? Under 14, 15, whatever, Yeah, until Ballybuckle here. Then they wanted me under 16. You come back down here. Come down here and play for Ballybuckle. Okay, I'll play for Ballybuckle.
Oh, God.
That was the crack,
Yeah,
it was great times. And we rode bikes everywhere. Like, even back in them days, like, we didn't have cars. We didn't have any electric scooters. Anybody out there listening now? There was no electric scooters in them days.
Oh, God, no.
But, we didn't have the batteries. We did think about making them, but we didn't have the batteries. That's the problem.
You probably made the go-karts.
Go-karts.
They
remember them?
Great.
Yeah. There was a man in Glassmore down the road, Mr. Murphy. He was a lovely man. And Pattis was his son, and he was a mechanic, and he would help us make the go-karts. He'd get wheels for us, or one time he got these things. We called them ball racers, but they're actually bearings. We didn't know what they were. He'd get these big bearings and put them on the end of it, and they were brilliant. Now, looking back on it, we used to go from. Our road was on a slope.
That's right.
Somebody would be pushing you. You're going at full speed. You're just there pulling these things with your strings or your feet maybe. But looking back at it now, when I look at it as an adult, the little low walls, if you hit one of these walls, you're in trouble. The walls are only that height, and you're sitting on this yoke here. If you hit a wall back then. But you didn't think about it when you were a kid.
Yeah, sure, my brother Eugene used to make them, and we would be on the main street of Swords going up and down.
Yeah, of course you did.
on them.
Of course you did, yeah. Yeah, Swords is a great hotel. I remember the old cinema.
Oh, God, which one now?
The one up at Superquinn, where Superquinn eventually became.
Mr.
People
Clark's
probably,
bought that then.
Yeah, Superquinn, people probably can't even remember Superquinn now because
No.
the pavilions is there.
Yeah.
So it's the old cinema was beside where
That's right.
the entrance to Penny's there now. More or
Yeah,
less.
do you remember Mr. Clark's daughter having the shop there? I remember getting my first tin whistle in it.
Go ahead.
Antoinette.
In Clark's shop.
Yeah, up at the cinema.
At the cinema, I don't remember the shop
Yeah,
there, I'm sure I did.
they bought that, and the old cinema actually, old Mr. Clark, he moved into the house when he retired.
Right.
Beside it.
Okay.
And I helped his daughter used to hang around with me, Claire. So the dogs were in the cinema then for.
The cinema was gas. The cinema was
But
gas.
my mother said there was one in North Street. Did you know that?
Never heard of it. No.
Yeah, that's where she met my father.
Oh, there you go.
I think it was a tinned roof
Tin
one
roof
to behind
building,
the house in North
I'll
Street.
well believe it, yeah.
You know?
Sure, there was things out there. I mean, there were things out there in all even little villages like, you know.
Yeah. Do you remember the film you went to see?
I can't remember the name of it, but I know it was black and white. It was a cowboy.
My first one, I remember going up to Santry. Do you remember the one up in Santry?
Yeah.
For my confirmation.
There you go. Well, the first time
Carolyn Fair, no?
we discovered the cinema, we were probably living in Swords but a few months before we kind of started going down to town of a Saturday or Sunday and walking, and then somebody says, "There's a cinema. Where's the cinema?" Because I remember going to it, and it was always a catch with it. You know, you go to see the film, and it'd be continued next week.
Oh, gosh.
What?
After paying your money.
What? Need another threepence to go. Need a threepence. Where am I going to get a threepence?
And come here, did you do the retreats down in Emos? Were you brought down?
I didn't. No.
Remember, they had a handball alley down there.
I had handball, yeah. Most villages did, yeah.
Yeah.
I played a couple of gigs in Amos over the years, yeah, in modern times in the 90s there.
Yeah.
Some people would see us playing in Swords there. Myself and my father and Ted, when we were the Morning Dew, like, you know.
Yeah, I remember the Morning Dew.
Morning Dew, do you remember Morning Dew?
God, we used to follow you
that's right, the Lord
every
Mayor's.
Saturday. And the Lord Mayor's as well. Oh, gosh, I used to
right.
miss the Lord Mayor's for that.
The Lord Mayor's
In the
it was so busy of a Friday, we went to a Tuesday.
Yeah.
And it was more packed because the children's allowance came in every Tuesday in the month. And I used to tell them, listen, girls, when that comes in, keep a few bob for next week, and you nearly get the next week out of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was great. It was a great gig for many years. Yeah.
Yeah, the Lord Mayor's down the cellar, wasn't it?
Yeah, down the cellar. Yeah.
Well, that's where I met my husband. Actually.
There you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the place to go at the time. We were the band.
Do you know there was a handball alley down
there,
in the back there?
Yeah, she never done away with it, really. Yeah.
Yeah, there was
It was there up to recently until they done the renovation.
But they used to do pitch and toss there as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
You know, you feel like getting burned at my house.
An awful town of gamblers.
Yes.
Yeah, but people amused themselves, you see, didn't they?
Absolutely, you had to.
Yeah,
you
pitch
had
and
to
toss,
because that was the way it was. Like
in Ballybockle, I remember guys congregating there at the little hall there in Ballybockle. They'd congregate at the little porch end of it, and there'd be 2 card schools going on, or a pitch and toss. There'd be murder. Oh my God, there'd be murder. And
explain to people what pitch and toss.
A lot of
they
money.
Probably wouldn't even know what it is.
And a lot of money involved too.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it thrown to coins? Wasn't it?
Yeah, the pitch and toss. Yeah, you basically had a penny coin. There was 240 pennies in a pound. So a penny, you can imagine what a penny was. But the penny was a big coin, and you literally everybody had to have the same coin.
Yeah.
You couldn't pitch a heavier coin. You had to have a penny. So you literally pitched it up against the wall, and the nearest one to the wall. So obviously when you pitched it up, it might bounce off the wall a couple of inches.
Yeah.
So whoever, there'd be betting on the side. There could be betting. Hard to put the money into it now because like money that time, I think the wages maybe back in the 60s probably only about £10 a week, maybe £5 a week.
Yeah.
£5 to £10 a week, an average industrial wage would have been. So if you think of someone paying there for 10 bob, 10 bob, there's 2 10 bobs in a pound, okay? So half a pound. Yeah. That's a bit of money out. If you had 10 bob going out of a Saturday night, you were doing very well.
Yeah.
You'd have a great night out.
Yeah.
So these lads would be betting. I'd bet with you, Sylvia. Okay, on this pitch, best of 3. I'd pitch, I'm 1 up. You'd pitch, 1 all. Next pitch, bang.
Yeah.
But what used to cause a rouse was when you'd pitch, sometimes the penny would stand up. It'd lie against the wall.
Yeah.
Now you have a dispute. Let's go to the rule book here. There are no
Well, none.
rules. There are no rules.
I think what we started then after that was the marbles.
Marbles.
Do you remember the marbles?
Ah,
we
come
have
here.
the big.
Yeah.
what-
I'm going to revive marbles.
yeah, I think it's great.
I was sitting at home having a coffee. One of the special days recently. What was a special day recently there? The June weekend? No, it's not June yet. May. What was it? It was a special day recently.
The bank holiday.
Bank holiday. I know it was the bank holiday, but there was some other day.
I wasn't in Bridget's New Day.
No, that was back in June.
Yeah.
Anyway, look, it might come back to me in the course of this chatting. In England,
Yeah.
there's a village in England that hold the World Marble Championships
Oh.
and have done since the 18th century.
Oh.
And they still do it. So I was watching morning TV, BBC, having a coffee, and here they are in this village, and there was a team from Germany, there was a team from Finland, and a couple of teams from England, and they interviewed the German gang. Oh, we are here to win, we're going to win the marbles. And basically, I didn't know how they played it. What they have is, they have a concrete plinth about 8-foot circle, maybe 7-8 foot in a circle, and it's about 6 inches off the ground, and they shake very fine sand onto it.
All right.
So they fill it with marbles. This is the way they play it. They fill it with marbles, loads of marbles. So you have to have your marbles, and you have to throw from standing or a hunker position to try and knock the marbles off. Whoever knocks the most marbles off wins the game.
Gosh.
Now that's world marbles.
Yeah, we
There
used
you
to
go.
put them up a line of the wall, and then whoever hit against them,
Well,
and when
exactly.
they come out,
Yeah,
you got them.
Or if you hit your partner's
and what was it called?
ball.
The conker? Was it the other one? The
yeah,
big
a
one?
gingy.
Was
A gingy it was called. Yeah, a gingy. I have a good memory.
Yeah, you do.
The Steelers.
The Steelers, that's right, yeah.
You Bob used to
They were the.
Bob.
That's the
Yeah.
ones. And we used to get them out of what I was talking, the bearings I was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
When somebody would break a bearing and probably in a truck, these big ball bearings come on the scene. Oh, where'd you get that joke from? It's like playing conkers, isn't
Yeah.
it? Playing the conkers back in the day. You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Steelies, yeah, they were the crack, yeah.
So you're going to rig it back then, Ronnie, are you?
Well, you know what? I got a great buzz out watching the World Championships. I said, it's a world.
I bought my niece marbles there. It was in the antique
Yeah.
shop over in New Barn. They had a bag of
Yeah.
them. And she was fascinated
Yeah.
with them, you know.
But you see, what you need for it, if you brought marbles into school now, what we did, obviously, we
we
3 or
not?
4 friends would get together and you'd throw a marble up there the path, and the next fella throw a marble and he miss you. But now you can throw from where you land, and he can throw from where he is, so it might be only a foot, and he might get you. Gotcha.
That's why we used to try and hit them, didn't
Yeah,
we?
and then you take your marble.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, they used to be more aroused and upset over
And then
it.
there was a different game where we used to maybe put 5 or 6 in a line,
Yeah.
and then we'd roll and see could you hit one.
Yeah, and bring them out.
And if you hit it, you took it.
Yeah.
So you end up with the most. But this game in England, the World Championships, was interesting. Same thing, I suppose. But it was interesting that they had this concrete plinth, but they put the sand on, very light sand. They sieved the sand on now.
Wow.
Partly to stop them just rolling off.
Yeah.
And then you flick on, and whoever knocks the most off, I'm playing you.
Yeah.
And whichever one of us knocks the most marbles off is into the next round.
And I bet you're not down on their knees like we used to be.
No. No, but if you think of all the villages around, even Ballybuckle there or Knoll or anything, it wouldn't be hard to get a little concrete plinth somewhere. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Put it in and revive it. You know?
Yeah.
Imagine kids going walking home from school or walking down the road. Come on, we'll have a game of marbles. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We might get a team.
Be cheap. I tell you, wouldn't it be cheaper than what they're
Cheaper
toys
sport.
now? You know what I mean?
yeah.
Do you remember doing the stilts? You ever do the stilts?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I used to be able to walk.
Make
them.
your own stilts.
Yeah, Eugene made ours, and we used to get on the windowsill of the house to get onto them and then start
Yeah,
trying
stilts
to
was a
walk.
big old thing because circuses were around, weren't they?
Yeah.
We always could see them on television and all circuses and stuff like that.
Tell me, sir, do you remember the carnival used to come to Lawless's yard? Yeah, we used to
do.
the pound
Absolutely,
there,
at the back
beside
there,
the
yeah.
pound.
Yeah, I have a good memory in modern times of them. I brought me 2 children to it back in the 80s, so it would have been around 87. And there was I went down, I said to Patricia's the wife, I said, come on, I'm going to bring these down to the circus. So we're watching the circus. I had a lad going around the horse, then there was a clown, and then an Indian lad came out with big knives and he was throwing them at the dirt. Oh, jeez. Then the same lad came out doing something else, and then he came out. Said, there was only about 3 of them in the circus. I said, this is gas. But they went over the kids' heads, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was great times, the carnivals, yeah.
Yeah, do you remember
And then
that?
you had one-armed bandits. I remember them. You put your coin in,
Oh,
You'd
well,
be
you
trying
see, I wouldn't be doing them. That's a man's voice.
you couldn't reach it. You couldn't put the money
We used
in.
to do the. Do you remember swing boats? They used to put the wooden
Oh,
thing
yeah.
underneath you. Oh, you used
That's
to hate
right,
them
yeah,
stopping
yeah.
you because.
Yeah, there was well, there is an uncle of mine, John Piper. He married an aunt of mine, Sally O'Reilly from Skidoo. Now, I'm not giving away the whole
They
thing there.
down
now.
in Portaran.
Portran Pipers,
Yes.
yeah. Well, John ran their show for years, travelled around, Ballybuckle, Swords, whatever.
Is that part of the McCormick?
Yeah, they're part of
family?
McCormick's now.
Yeah.
So at this stage now, he about 20 years ago, he said he'd love to be back at it. You know,
Do you remember them living there across from JC's house? The McCormicks
yes,
lived
in
there in
that
that
yard there.
yard.
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah, for many years.
Yeah,
for
they
many
did.
years. Yeah,
They-
they're good memories, them. Yeah.
And then you have the Fosters. Fosters, is it?
Faucets.
Fosters. They're down Lisson Hall now. They live
Seen
there
them.
and
Seen
they
them
travel
recently
around
down
up.
there, yeah.
Um,
That's right. Yeah.
But it was, yeah, because you remember, like, Fingallians used to have the festival and there was always
Yeah.
the carnival there.
Oh, it was great for us in our time. Yeah, the bands.
and do you remember the band? Did you play
Yeah,
there?
no, I was too young.
You're
then.
probably too young, yeah.
I wasn't playing. I was barely allowed to go to it. You know what I mean?
Oh, for God's sake, I was. I remember the floor was that dirty.
Remember,
the
yeah,
wooden
yeah.
floors. That that marquee was massive,
Brilliant,
wasn't
brilliant.
it?
Yeah, yeah. And they stretched out as far as Mead. Dunshaughlin used to have a great one.
Yeah.
We're told.
So did you go to all these
once,
tournaments and when you were playing football? Did you go to?
Well,
much of
not
them?
so many of them really. Like there was probably a couple of invitationals. You know, always caused rows. It was always rows.
Yeah.
Now that's simple as that, lad. Let's call it a spade here.
Yeah.
The Rollerstown lads are coming. Oh, let's get them.
Yeah.
You know? And I'm from Ballybuckle, and I remember someone running a disco in Ballybuckle one night, many years back, and the place was packed, and the DJ was great. He had a couple of go-go dancers. I think one of them was his wife. I won't mention their names, but it was for us young lads. Here's girls in leotards and they're dancing in front of the strobe light, and we were like, "Holy God, this is great!" But anyway, long story short, I remember an immersive row one night. There was a few lads from Swords came out, and they met lads from Rollerstown that they fought with, and there wasn't even a Ballybuckle man there fighting. Do you know, this was two different other villages
They
fighting.
ran away.
The guards got called, and that was the end of our disco. Fecked up our social night.
I'll tell you a funny story. A man here in Rollerstown told me. So he lived up in Santry, and they used to come out to Swords on a Sunday to have a drink because the bars in town be closed.
That's right, yeah.
So Christmas Eve, himself and his friends come out to the big tree, and a row ensued, and they got arrested.
Lovely. Happy
And
Christmas.
this man's mother had to waken him, who he believed in Santa Claus, to get up to the attic to get the Christmas presents down
my
for the rest of the family because the father was in jail.
There you go.
Arrested for dumping.
Arresting Swords, yeah. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, funny old
know.
times, weren't they?
Yeah, they were.
They were great.
And do you remember the youth
Innocence.
centre? Like, we used to have great
Oh, the youth
fun.
centre was great, yeah. I used to go to the youth centre.
They used to have the level floor. There was table tennis, and then they had a room where you could go in and play music. Then you went upstairs. They had Babblington,
That's right.
and they had
There's a few
something else.
dances in it as well. There's a few
Oh,
bands
they used
playing,
to have
wasn't there?
they used to have the disco every Saturday
That's
night
right,
when
yeah.
I was a
Yeah,
teenager.
that's right.
Where was the location?
That was down in
Seatown.
Seatown, where it's still there now. It's as Hospice Ireland have it now, but they built onto it. So the old building was where we
Yeah,
had.
that's right. Still there.
I remember my friend was playing against one of the priests on the table tennis, right? And my friend was good. And he was trashing her. And I said to her, I said, Asher, he's gone on the side. Well, he wasn't one bit impressed with me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, yeah. You'd be read from the pulpit.
Yeah. But do you know, my grandfather had, there used to be the Swords Legion had a little, it was a little house, and the field beside where the youth centre was, going back to where the old school would have been.
Okay, yeah.
And my grandfather used to run the British Legion there for years. Yeah.
There you go. Yeah, there was lots of things going on. Boxing club, there was a boxing club. There was
That's right.
there was
yeah,
karate
there was.
club. I was in the karate for a while. And
Yeah.
yeah, there's lots of other things going on down there. It was
Yeah,
great.
they used to play seven-a-side down there. Do you
Yeah, I was
remember
just
that?
saying, we used to run it was actually five-a-side.
Oh, it's five-a-side,
It was
wasn't
so the pitch was so small, it was five-a-side. Oh my God. Oh, it frightened the life out of me. I couldn't play in it. They were brilliant. But they were men, they were older than what I was. So, Seatown, the Congo, and down there. That they call, you know, them lads, some great fabulous footballers down there. You know, fabulous footballers.
Yeah.
The,
The Swords Celtic was actually started off as Seatown Celtic.
yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
My uncle
well,
and
Villa
I believe
Celtic. It was
Paddy,
Villa Celtic.
Villa Celtic.
Yeah.
I was told my
I can be
uncle,
corrected.
my uncle Liam and Paddy Jared started that.
Paddy Jared, I remember Paddy well. Jerusalem, huh? Did you
Jerusalem.
ever hear him singing Jerusalem?
No.
Ah, come on, Sylvia.
I probably did. But
Paddy used to go to the pound, he'd have a pint, and then he'd head home fairly early, around 10 to 10, you know. But my own father would be down there and he'd be sitting, come on, V, give us a song, V. So someone starts singing. Next thing, Paddy be heading. Are you heading? No, Paddy, yeah, I'm heading, yeah. Paddy be heading for the door, the pound, the bar. He'd get up on a stool and he'd sing Jerusalem. And get the whole lot of them saying, Jerusalem, Jerusalem. And when he had them all in full flight, good luck now, out the door.
he was
Paddy
great,
drove the minibus for many years, remember? He used to drive minibus.
he was lovely.
Lovely
His
man,
wife,
lovely man.
lovely.
Yeah.
And
John
when did you
Hand.
get into the music?
Me. Oh, man. Well, it's always been in the family, so it goes back a long time. It goes back to my, I suppose, about 10 or 12 years of old, maybe. You know what I mean? So my uncle was very good accordion player. I have two uncles that played accordions. One of them was extremely good. He played with the Del Rio show band at the time. Del Rio were North County, Dublin, Balbriggan, Rush type thing. There was a man played saxophone with them called Rurock, I think was his name. Dutchman. Because a lot of Dutch people came into Rush.
Yeah.
And
Horticulture, latched onto the tomatoes and the glass house building and all that. So this man played the saxophone, and I actually found a poster recently in Dunshaughlin. My wife teaches a little bit of Cayley dancing, and it's a very old parochial hall in Dunshaughlin that they do it. And so I was there sitting one night looking, and there was a new poster on the wall. I said, but I went over to read it. It was the Dunshaughlin Festival in 1957.
Wow.
Yeah. And the lineup for that weekend, and the Del Rio show band were the first night from 9 till 3. 9 till 3? What? I said that. And all the bands were 9 to 3. I said, that couldn't be right. 9 till 3 in the morning. Yeah.
My granduncle's son, he played the saxophone in a band, and I found a postcard my mother left over where they were down in Mayo in their van going around to different places with it, you know.
There you go. So I was always attached to the music because in my grandfather's house, where I would have been fairly much reared up to about 9-year-old, 10-year-old, Dodie used to play over in the Fox Inn then in Ballymadon, they call it over there, and he'd come home at night. That time the pubs closed at 10.
Yeah.
He could be home at 11 o'clock, and the kitchen would be full of lads from the pub. The girls that be in the pub, come on, we go back to the Delaney's for a sing-song. Dodie come in, Dodie, I'm walking in the morning, come on, give us a song. Then I get out of bed. So I was sitting with them, you know, as a child, and going to school the next morning. It didn't matter. But he was great. He was a very good player. And
wasn't that the way the
and
life
his
was
brother,
at the time?
His brother, Gussie then, Gus still alive, and Gus could play the accordion. And so Gus started showing me a few tunes on the accordion, and I learned a couple of tunes like Danny Boy and a few of them sort of slowy tunes. And then you see the guitar was becoming popular. You know, you need to, even my Uncle Dodie, you need to play guitar. You need to learn how to play guitar. He said, not the accordion's going out. But anyway, I started learning how to play guitar then, and then I gave it up because I couldn't play it. I was only 12, 13. So I took it up later, probably about 17, 18. Did a couple of lessons down in the Tech and Sword, we one night class or something for that. Very, very good. And so basically learned a little bit of the basics and then sort of self-taught after that, you know.
And did you ever play with any of the Sheridans, like, you know?
I played with Stephen.
Stephen,
yeah, in the early days.
As in the junior Stephen.
Junior Stephen. Oh, yeah. Well, I played with senior Stephen as well in the Mummers.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you about the Mummers.
The Mummers, yeah.
You actually played in Swords Mummers, did you?
I was in the Mummers for probably about 25 years, yeah.
In Swords one?
Swords, yeah.
Oh, right.
With my father, yeah.
I remember.
My father was King George.
Was he?
Yeah.
I remember the Mummers because wasn't Harry Hanratty involved in that?
He was brilliant.
Harry wrote a poem about the pub and no beer. Do you remember
Swords?
Swords?
Right, yeah.
And he mentioned all the characters and all the pubs and Swords. Yeah. I'd love to get another hold of that, you know.
It's out there.
I know Barbie McGlynn was mentioned. That one always stuck in my head because my friend's father was the manager of the Central for a few years. They actually lived up. That's where I met my friend.
I'm not that sure that Harry wrote that though. I think it was Billy Rickard.
Oh,
from Glassmore.
Someone said that Harry wrote it
Yeah,
now.
there you go. Check it out. Billy Rickard.
Oh, right.
And the son-in-law of his actually has the words of it. I met
Does
him
he?
through the folk club a while
Oh,
ago.
tell him to put up Swords then, and
Yeah,
it'd be
yeah.
lovely to read that
Billy was a
again.
lovely fella.
Yeah, because
Billy
that
Rickard,
gives you all the characters of Swords
Yeah.
at the time, you know.
There was a time there was a Guinness strike or something.
That's right, yeah.
So there was no beer.
pub. Yeah.
And he naturally put a song together about the pub with no beer. But he started at the Big Tree,
That's
went to
right.
the Harp, went to a heap of pubs and Swords, went
Yeah.
through them all, yeah. All the
Rhymes,
characters. It was
Get
brilliant.
Gone and-
It was a brilliant song, yeah.
Yeah, it was
I
brilliant.
might revive it somewhere along the way. I'll try and get it somewhere.
You should do that,
Yeah.
yeah, because because I remember they had a walk, a sponsored walk, when I was younger, from Swords Malahide to get money
yeah.
together for the Olympics.
Oh, yeah, there, yeah.
And
yeah,
the
yeah.
mummers
Community games.
came with, or the community games, was it?
Yeah, community games.
And the mummers played, and we
Yeah,
all
they
followed
would've, yeah.
the mummers to
Yeah.
Malahide and back. I was only, I was, gosh, I'm probably about 10 at the
Yeah.
time. It
The
was-
mummers, the Swords mummers were quite famous
That
at
was
the
the
time.
first time I
They were
probably
very well
got to know
known. Yeah,
them.
they were very well known.
Wasn't one of
Great
the
musicians in them as
there was
well,
a-
you know.
over in Drineham, there's a lad there who played with them. Quinn something.
I don't know.
Gosh,
Come up. There was a lot of them.
McQuillan.
McQuillan could have been, yeah.
Yeah.
They used to come and go, though. You know what I mean? They come and go. You get a couple of musicians, and then maybe they pass away, or maybe somebody move on. You know.
they had in the launch of Sword Voice there a couple of years ago. Your
Yeah.
dad and you played.
That's right.
And there was another man from Glassmore, and they were the
Yeah.
mummers as
well.
well.
The Crosbys are quite
That's
famous.
who it
Would
is,
have
yeah.
been Willie on the accordion,
Yeah.
and Tummer on the clackers.
Yeah,
Tummer used to play these Spanish clackers. They call castanets. That's the
Yeah.
word, castanets. But he was a genius. He was a genius at them. He could play a tune, you know, just like that. Great rhythm. God rest him, Tummer. Lovely
And
fella.
David O'Connor sang that night.
Yeah, he might have been around.
He was the Lord
David would.
Mayor.
Of
He was
course
the Lord
he
Mayor
was.
of
Fingal
at the time. David
There you
was
go. Yeah, that was 2016.
from
yeah.
Ballybuckle as well.
Yeah, I know David well. Oh, all my life, yeah. He's a great singer. He's a great singer.
Absolutely.
See, he does a few funny parodies as well. You know, he's very funny.
There's so many like different stories of Swords. You know, like
Yeah.
Swords was. Did
But
you?
a lot of musicians around Swords. So
There was, yeah.
Yes, there was, yeah.
Because
Couple
you
of rock
had
bands and-
Christy Sheridan was in the Bards.
Yeah, Chrissy, yeah.
You know.
And Stephen and...
Yeah,
yeah.
Stephen and
They were playing in They were in different bands. There was a band one time called the Bridge Street Boys.
yeah.
Yeah, there was a group of lads got together, put a band. They were kind of rocky, country rock type band, you know.
Do you remember what was his name from Glassmore? What was Colum?
Come at me now.
Oh gosh, I should know his name. He was in a good band as well.
Oh, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yes.
I haven't got the name. It's not McGurk, is it? No.
No.
There's a
Grogan.
Yeah. There's a few lads from Glassmore eventually had bands.
Yeah.
Alan Menton, for instance, he joined in Miami. He was a bass. He was
I
a
knew
bass
there was
player.
a connection there.
Alan Menton, he played with the Miami, yeah.
And
I haven't seen him for a while. He used to hang around with us years ago.
there's
as well.
another lad in Seatown was in the same band with Colin Grogan and Joe's his brother who was disabled. There was.
But bands took different directions, you know. Like I was playing music. I would have been going to O'Connor's bar with my father and his friend Barney McCann. They were the music in O'Connor's. They were the sing-song, V and Barney, of a Sunday night. And then somebody would be doing compare, you know, bit of Cunis now, come on. And they were great, though. They could sing all the songs. And I was going with them for about a couple of years, maybe a year or so. You know what I mean? I was 17, 18, whatever it was. And the next thing was, they were doing all, on the one road, I've been the way rover, and all this. Then I discovered, you know, that there was the Wolf Tones were out there, the Dubliners were out there, and we were playing a mandolin and a guitar, but we were playing. This is me and my Uncle Ted. My Uncle Ted was my mother's brother.
Yeah, I know Ted.
You know Ted.
Yeah.
So we were learning. He was self-taught. We learned how to tune these things up, but then we were doing the Eagles. We wanted to be country rock. We were playing Eagles. We were playing, you know, some of my favourite bands would be, I like Queen, I like the Eagles, I like Thin Lizzy, you know what I mean? But then I said, listen, we're playing the wrong music for these instruments. Why don't we do what these lads are doing on the one road? Come out, Jabberlack and hands and all this crack.
Yeah. And come here.
The war was on, lads, the war was on.
Yeah, and
so we developed a ballad group at the time.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And we did a
Vivian
first...
played with you for a while there
Vivian
too.
played was for a while in Rollerstown on Friday nights, yeah. That was
Yeah.
for years, yeah. Alice was his song.
Yeah.
You out there, Viv? Alice. But my uncle that I was telling you about earlier on, that had the band, a year before we launched our group, we were travelling up and down. He had a pub in Kells. He ended up buying a pub in Kells. His girlfriend and wifey at the time, he married at the time, she managed the Fox Inn for many years. So they ended up buying a pub. You know, they'd say, oh, she'll end up with a pub or he'll end up with a pub.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
So we used to go down to Kells of a Saturday. It was like a road trip, lads. You know, you leave Ballybuckle at 11, you go as far as Tankerstown out there outside Navan, and you stop there for a game of pool and a bit of lunch, and then you go on to Kells. Take you a while to get there. And we were like rock stars down there, you know.
Yeah.
Here's the lads from Dublin. The band are down from Dublin. Jeez, we were looking at the chords on the fretboard. We were trying to make a D. I was trying to make a G. But no, we were a bit better than that, maybe a little bit better than that. But we used to go every sort of second Saturday, not every week. We couldn't go every week. It was just a big trip. But it suited us then because we were young now. So we do the gig in the pub, and then we'd have a sandwich before we leave it, and we'd head back for home, stop off in Navan to see Joe Dolan in Beachmount. Joe Dolan would be playing in Beachmount, 2,000 people. What a gig. You know, so we had the best of both worlds, you know. But we learned a trade down there with Dodie. We learned how to play music behind people. He was getting the people up to sing.
Yeah.
And we had to play along with them and pick out our key. He used to smoke a fag outside his mouth, you know. B flat, B flat. You know, B flat. You pick it out. G. See. But then you got so used to it that your ear picked up then. You knew how to. So that was a real learning curve, like, you know, and I think back on it, like, you know.
Yeah.
And then we just launched our own band, the Morning Dew. We said we called ourselves the Morning Dew, so there you go.
You were all over Fingal.
Yeah, we were very popular at the time, back in the early 80s. Well, 79 we started, so early 80s. Yeah.
And now your daughter with you now.
And now my daughter's
like
with me now. It's just
like there's like a whole family.
It's just evolved into that
It's
lately,
lovely,
yeah. We were doing the Carnegie there for a long time.
Yeah.
Myself, my dad and Ted. And then my dad passed away, of course, 8 years ago. And Niamh was sort of sitting in the wings. But the year before he passed away, he said to her, you want to start playing with your father, singing a few songs with him. Because she sing at parties and all, you know.
Yeah.
So we gave it a go one night and she liked it. And it was real, because I could still see that moment, you know what I mean? Yeah, it was really, really good, yeah.
Because there was always a thing like in Swords, like I remember even like hearing the stories my grandfather's house where they all come in to play.
Yeah, that's what they did.
Even the pipes were being played.
Just drop into the house, right?
Have their pint of Guinness.
Yeah. But you see, we forget the pubs were closed at 10 o'clock.
Yes.
On a Sunday night.
Yes.
So it was a kind of a thing to do, wasn't it? A thing to do.
Yeah, and I suppose you wouldn't have had the drink was, of course, was a lot cheaper in those days.
Yeah.
Because there was and as you're saying, the betting and the horses, like ushers was a lot of people come in Swords for the horses. Like my granddad used to organise the bus to go to the ferry house. A double decker.
There you go.
The bus would only go as far as Rhines and Rahout, and you'd have to walk across the
Ferry
field.
House Road.
My mother said my aunt would have a pair of new tights on them, and by the time they get there, it'd be ripped going through the fields with the lads.
It's unbelievable, isn't it?
And they stop off, and the only time my granny drank was in there, and once in the big tree a year.
But even myself growing up, even as a teenager, I remember going to the Ferry House races at Easter, and you'd get that chap I was talking about, Barney McCann, lovely man. Barney was into the horse. He'd go to the race. So Barney and me go. My father wouldn't go. No interest. No, Gaelic football or hurling, that's all.
Yeah.
You know, no interest in going to the horse races. So myself and Barney go, and another chap there, Pat Casey, who passed away there. He's a poor Pat. But anyway, I remember sitting in a Volkswagen with Pat, with Barney, on the Swords, Ashbourne Road. Okay, so through Rollerstown, you get through, what's the big roundabout now, going for a tote.
Yeah.
But you're in a queue of cars then. You were crawling from there to a tote. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, you could be another hour and a half trying to get to Ratout.
Yeah.
To the races, yeah. Huge crowds back then, you know.
And then you had, then you had all the farming stuff as well. Like so it's like when I was in the main street there, the trucks used to pull up to go to the pub. The lad began out to go to the pub to have his pint.
Well, sure, look.
And the peas, we'd be robbing the peas out.
Yeah, it'd be gorgeous.
You know, wouldn't they?
And sure, you must remember Howard's horses when they were sweeping the streets for the council. Jem Howard had the horses pulling the cart.
Jeez, I don't
know. Up the Chapel Lane. He used to tie them up there at the rings are probably still on the wall.
The rings are still in the wall, yes.
Yeah, he'd tie the horse there at the ring. He'd sweep a bit of the path and he'd shovel it up onto a bar and then he'd throw it up onto the cart. So he was hired in from the council
Yeah.
He didn't have a van. He had a horse and cart. And that's what,
right.
I remember him so well.
I remember the council having
father.
What you call it, the barrel with the holes in it and the fire to do the tarmac on the street.
Oh, yeah. Actually, look, when I was going to school in Ballybuckle, and I used to meet the roadmen, and they would clean the gullies along. A fella called Neddy Orange, I remember his name, I was stuck in my head, Neddy Orange, and a few of them along the way. Sure, all you want to be is a councilman. I just want to light a fire and boil the pot, the billy can, and make yourself a cup of tea.
That's right, the billy can. I remember that with beans in it, didn't they?
The billy can.
And
it'd just be black.
And do you remember the guy who used to do the streets and he'd push along Ken?
Ken. Ken's still alive. He still is, yeah. Yeah, he's still out there. Ken was in the Mummers as well, you know.
Was he?
He was Tom the Fool.
Oh, was he?
Here I come, brave Tom the Fool, with me bladder and me staff. I didn't come here to make you cry, I came to make you laugh. Me and 4 more and all the blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Put some copper in my thing won't pass.
He was a great character,
Ken was brilliant, yeah.
Yeah, he used to have his old bar and street to street and empty, you know.
Lovely fella.
Yeah.
Lovely fella, yeah.
And he'd be chatting to everybody.
Lovely fella, Ken.
He was.
Oh, yeah. Well, early memories was going to school. I was just saying to you there a minute ago that, you know, I always remember we lived in Skidoo.
Yeah.
Skidoo, Ballybuckle. So Skidoo is about 2.5, 3 miles south side of Ballybuckle.
Did you live beside, like Peter Flynn, his granny lived around there?
No, not there, no. Casey's was on the hill.
Oh, that's it, Casey.
Casey and McDonald's. Casey and McDonald's. And I remember my mother bringing me to school on a bike with the carrier on the back, and that was the early days. You know, I probably started school about 4, but I can tell you, by the time I was 5, I was walking. You know, you'd walk, and you'd be on your own. You'd hope to meet a couple of lads along the way. So it was a good walk, and then, but I always remember, I still do this in the autumn when the leaves are falling and the helicopters are on the ground. I call them helicopters.
Yes, I do, yes.
I used to think I was making them because I used to shuffle all the leaves with my feet, and when I get to school, I'd be black. You know what I mean? But I used to think I was turning the leaves, and then they were turned into helicopters. And I'd bring a fistful of these into the school. Hey lads, look what we have there. And we'd be playing in the yard with them, you know. Helicopters. But then there was Mrs. Jones there was a teacher in the school. She used to, I always remember she had a brand new Volkswagen Beetle. Can you imagine that?
Yeah.
Can you imagine that in 1964, 65? Brand new. And she was very good. She'd often pick me up on the road and bring me down. Yeah. So I was a teacher's pet. You know what I'm saying? That's what I was told, yeah. So that was my very early days then. And then growing up in Ballybuckle, we had lots of things to do. We had Pitch and Putt, which came on the scene around 1970. Mm-hmm. I was at the opening of that. I'm still involved there.
That's right.
Very much involved there running that. It's still there to this day, and it's a great community.
Yeah, you do a lot for the down in Ballybuckle.
Yeah, I do. Well, look, I don't even think about it. I just do what I do.
Yeah.
So, you know, growing up then we were playing football, but then, as I said, I was moved to Swords when I was about 9. So I would have made my first communion in Ballybuckle and that sort of thing, you know. Confirmation was Swords. And do
you remember who the priest was at the time that you were doing it?
In Ballybuckle?
Yeah.
It was probably Father. This was Jerry Canning.
No.
It wasn't Jerry, no.
No.
Jerry was very active at the time, Jerry Canning. So I might not know, I might have been involved maybe, you know.
I know you'd know about him. I can't think of it.
Yeah. Well, it was only fields. Basically cottages and fields, no houses, like cottages and fields. Telegraph lines across telephone poles.
What about your graveyard where
the derelict site?
It got its name from the
St.
Crosier,
Patrick.
wasn't it?
It got its name from St. Patrick. Now, St. Patrick left his staff in Ballybuckle. They call it staff, his yoke.
Crosier.
Staff, they call it. So it was left in Ballybuckle and was supposed to have been robbed.
Brought to England.
Out of in Ballybuckle, in the old churchyard, in the graveyard. Mm-hmm. Like there was nuns and all there back in the old days. Yeah. There's even supposed to be a tunnel there that runs from there over to the Lusk Road under the whole village.
Yeah.
And it probably is there. You know, it probably is there.
They said the same about Swords. There's supposed to be a tunnel going from the castle up to the Protestant church.
Yeah,
Protestant church,
yeah. Because these were escape routes for people.
Yeah.
So they would have had them, like, you know. But anyway, St. Patrick was supposed to have left the staff there, and then they said that there would be a curse on Ballybuckle because it was robbed, that there'll never be a priest ordained from Ballybuckle. There wasn't even a school there now at the time on the right. Yeah, well, it might have just been getting built around 64, 65, yeah. The old school was a little bit further up on the left there. The pub was there. The pub's been there since the early 1900s. It was in actually an army garrison barracks, at the time. There was actually bars on the window up to 20 years ago. There used to be bars on the window. The latest owner, I think, took them off. It did look terrible, really. Some people might call it a feature, but when you see it gone, it looks better. It does look better. But there wasn't much around there. They had a football pitch, all right, up the road. It's still there to this day. Somebody had given them a little bit of ground. My father was one of the founding members coming back. He came back from England. Had been in England, working in England in the 50s. Came back, got married to my mother, still living in Ballybuckle. And they were himself, Barney McCann, probably, I don't know, would have been Leo Hickey maybe, a few lads. The Barretts, of course, were all great footballers. But they formed a club. They got a football club going. So that was the heart of the community, the football club. That was really the heart of it. And Fingal was mad for football. I mean, they'd hate you. You know what I mean? They would. You, as a young lad playing football in Fingal, it was nuts. I don't know how I have teeth.
I know my father-in-law played the Fingal Ravens, and geez, even the state of the pitches that they played in was supposed to be so bad.
It was very rough at the time as well. It was rough, you know what I mean? There was no, it was just the way they were. I remember, I think it might have been my first game to play with Ballybuckle. I was only 16. You're coming down to play with the juniors now on Sunday morning. Okay, be father. Come on, you come play for these. I go into a dressing room with all these men, and they're probably only 25. But, they're men to me.
Yeah.
Next you see one lad taking a big bandage on his knee. Another lad put a big bandage on it. Then this lad took out his teeth. And I'm like, holy Jesus. What's going on? Is this the Coliseum I'm in? And we're all just running around after the ball. Some lad push you. Nah, it was gas crack,
there was no showers or anything then?
No, it's showery. You're joking me, not at all. No. It was just different times,
Yeah.
So that was Ballybuckle. I always remember not ever having a bike. I never had a new bike or anything like that. You always had to make a bike. You'd make a bike out of an old bike. There's an old crock there. Get that. Get a tyre for it. Where would I get a tyre for that? Go into someone in Swords there has a bike shop. Maybe Christy Sheridan got one at the time. Old Christy had one on the Forest Road.
That's right.
But somebody would give you an old tyre, And then there'd be a rip in the side of it. You'd have to put a bit inside the rip, Oh, Jenny, Mac, you think of what we've done. But, it's a good place to grow up, Ballybuckle. I love Ballybuckle. I still do. And a lot of good people out there. Great neighbours and, couldn't say a bad word about them, not at all. And Swords. Swords is brilliant. I just think Swords, we were lucky we moved to Swords at the time, I think, because it gave us great opportunity. You got to go to the secondary school at your leisure. I'm probably coming from an era where when you turned 15, 16, you didn't go to school, you went to work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So we were lucky we had to maintain going to school, a little bit more education, pick up an old job. I worked in the P&T, by the way. I was the only one that worked in there.
Did you go there young, did you?
I was only 16, yeah.
My uncle Tommy O'Toole lived up the road.
I knew him well.
Tommy, he worked there.
Tony.
No.
That's what I call him, yeah.
Did I?
Yeah.
Tony's the other one that's in Seatown.
No, Tommy's not. Tommy's Glassmore.
Yeah.
I remember him as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the other man was down in Seatown, yeah. Tony, we call him.
Yeah.
He was in the overhead cruise.
That's right.
Yeah.
He'd be a cousin of Tommy's.
I joined P&T in 74. Would have been around
my
74.
grandfather was in it as well.
Open competition type thing, the civil service. It was all built as civil service. You do over 600 people applied for. I applied for. I got called. I was somewhere in the top 200. So you get a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What do you do? I'll take the job, So
my grandfather went over to Tory Island to put electricity on over there. Got stuck there for a month because of the weather.
Yeah, well, why wouldn't you?
Yeah. Right. Well, I just that was very interesting.
Well, I hope it was a bit interesting.
And
a few memories for a few
great
people.
Memories, and I'm sure a lot of people will love to hear, the names and bring back memories to them.
Great.
So I want to thank Ronnie for this morning, and until we come back to you again,
we'll see you at a gig somewhere soon.
We'll see you.
I'm still gigging.
You're still gigging.
Yeah.
So
watch out for Branded.
What's your Facebook page? Branded.
Branded. And the D is for Delaney.
Goodbye for now. Thank you.
And big thank you go to Ronnie Delaney for giving us his time. That segment was produced by Sylvia Maxwell for Treasure Ireland.